Okay, we'll get started here. We have a public hearing, proposed local law number 5 of 2022 to create a nuisance animal and pest removal assistance program. I believe we have people signed up. Do we have that list?
It's up there in case there's more.
Anybody else here to sign up? Okay, Whitney Meeker.
That would be me.
Okay, can you address the podium?
I'm not sure I need that. I don't know. As you all know, we have a woodchuck infestation in this city. And I was just reading some of the stuff that's on the agenda here about an animal assistance. Quite frankly, I don't think it's incumbent upon the individual homeowner to pay the whole shot. I really don't, because it's a city problem. It's not just an individual homeowner problem. And believe you me, I've worked on woodchucks for the past 10 years. I've graded up Irish Spring soap, and I've got bubbles in the backyard every time it rains. I have poured Clorox, muriatic acid, ammonia, and mothballs down every hole I can find. Epsom salts, the jury's still out because I just did that today. I can't shoot them because I'm not allowed to use a weapon that fires a projectile, not even a paintball gun. So I'm a little limited there. They can run faster than I can, so I can't block them off and beat them to death. So what are we to do? I think Sweeney's Pest Control, great bunch of people, they've been good to me. I don't have bees in my walls anymore because of those people. But $5,000 isn't going to do it. This is a citywide problem. It needs more money, and it needs a line item in the budget of nuisance animal, woodchuck eradication, whatever you want to call it. It needs every single year, because once you get rid of them, you got the rural bunch moving right back in, and they have babies and they do all kinds of stuff. And I'm a little tired after 10 years. I really am. I'm a little tired, and I think it should be a city problem. It should be solved by you folks with more money. And if Sweeney's could do something besides trap, I mean, I'd like to back up my car and run a hose down the hole and gas them. But I'm afraid that I would be looked at not very nicely because I'm gassing a bunch of rodents to death, which I really don't care. But, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I have one hole in my yard. My neighbors have really active hole, although all holes are interconnected and they're all active. But I have 2 dogs in my yard that will kill anything that comes in. So, but these woodchucks are still out there, and they're still digging, they're still burrowing, they're still causing problems. And I think $5,000 is just a spit in the ocean. And I think you guys are dreaming if you think $5,000 is going to cure your problem. It's not. And you need to wake up and say, okay, homeowners, we're going to do something for you. And that is, we're going to help you eradicate, not just give me assistance. I'm on fixed income. I can't afford $200 an animal. I mean, I was getting an elderly person's discount last year, but I'm told now it's $200. I can't, I've got 5 woodchucks out there, $1,000. And according to this, the city's going to pay $200 and I'm going to pay $800 just to get rid of 5 rodents. That is no guarantee, believe you me. I've set traps. I spent more money on cantaloupe, watermelon, and strawberries to try to get them. That they go, they're rolling in the grass laughing at me because they're thinking, yeah, you think we're that stupid that we're gonna walk in there and touch that little thing and trap ourselves? Ain't happening. Please, please, you guys have got to do something with this. This is citywide. I was up on College Hill. They're all running rampant over there. I'm surprised they haven't started down Main Street like a bunch of lemmings. They're all over the place. Please do something. Do something besides just $5,000. It's ridiculous. Or at least give me a 22 so I can shoot a little pepper cuts because I'm tired of them. And believe me, I'm a pretty good shot too.
Thank you.
I don't want to take anything out of you. So, please, that's my whole thing. And like I said, I have shoved more stuff down the holes than I care to. And I understand that bear spray is really good. Guess what? It's illegal to buy in the state of New York. I'm screwed again.
Thank you. I appreciate your input. Thank you very much.
Pardon?
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry. Yeah, she's, Anybody else here to just talk about the proposed local law number 5, 2022, to create a nuisance animal and pest removal assistance program? Going the third time, but here to talk to that local law. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Scott is absent. Councilmember Silliman,
Here.
Councilmember Pinello,
Here.
Councilmember Lane,
Here.
Councilmember Thompson,
Here.
Councilmember Carpenter is reported absent. Councilmember Beckwith is reported absent. Councilmember Michaels.
Here. All right, if we can all rise to salute the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have a moment of silence and reflection to guide us into our decision-making process. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the mayor's report.
Privilege of the floor.
Who's on the floor? Anybody signed up? Mayor's report. So our fire department's been busy again as usual. So picking up on 81 with that latest incident, which will all get further reports. We'll meet back with the DEC, DOT to talk about what happened over on the bridge. We've had a couple other calls that they've dealt with diligently, and we appreciate that. Our drug task force has been doing a phenomenal job with another release just recently. I think everybody got that one. Yeah. So they've been super successful, and certainly appreciate their efforts in working with the state police, county sheriffs, and our police department, working very well together, having great success there. So those are all. Met with the county last week and to work out the MOU for the courts, which will be on our next meeting's agenda. So I want to prepare everybody for that. That's something they've been waiting for 2 years for us to sign, so we can start working on the court to renovate that. So hopefully we'll get that at the next meeting to discuss. The town gown committee, which Ms. Lane, will have you address that at our later on when we do our reports. And with the college, it's a great success there. Had many other items in the works, so we'll talk to them as we get them across. The finance report everybody saw in their packets, we had those individually. You'll see that DPW, wastewater, youth bureau, and some of them have gone over on their equipment lines, workers' comp, insurance, workers' comp and insurance line, and medical insurance as well. has all been pushed outside of what the budget lines are. Everything else seems to be hitting about the mid-year range with our revenues at 49%, our expenditures at 53%. So we're pretty close on target for what we anticipate where we should be. So we'll be able to see in the next quarter where we're at. Questions on the finances, finance reports? We have. All right, board reports. Right to where we at? Or two.
I had a long conversation with Lori Everett from the DPW. It was an inspiring conversation. And among other things, he told me that Giovanna Lisi, their new secretary, is doing a tremendous job. She gets along with everybody. She's learned her job really quickly and she manages well alone. She had to do so when he responded to the big fire that we had recently. And she did a bang-up job, so that's great to hear. The recent fire was because of oil left on the stove on, and somebody left the house. And it's just want to remind everybody not to do that. Turn your stove off if you're leaving the house. It was a great effort by the fire department, and one young new recruit in particular showed quick thinking and was very helpful in that fire. And then I called the DPW and I reported that I had a call from a constituent who was concerned about Jewett. That was a mistake. He's concerned about Arthur Ave. So I'm wondering where that is in the lineup for paving. I looked on the website. I don't think it's on the list. It's nice that you have a list for people to refer to and find on the website. It's not on there, so maybe next year. I had a complaint about the cost of taxi service in the city, and I'm communicating with the chief of police about that. There are 2 lights out, street lights on the West Court, and I would just like people to know that DPW is responding. They're just having trouble getting parts. The parts are, back ordered, and it's been tough. So that will happen. Just be careful. Take a flashlight if you're walking down the West Court where it crosses Pleasant, because it's pretty dark there. Thanks.
Thank you. 3.
So I just want to start out first by mentioning how proud I have been of our Portland County Democratic Chair, Tim Perfetti, our mayor, Scott Steve, and fire chief, Mr. Friedman, and the firemen for the way they handled the situation Saturday, June 25th, down at OCM BOCES. They handled it in a very professional and ethical way, and I want to compliment them for their professionalism. As far as Ward 3 is concerned, it's been very quiet. Things are moving along very nicely. I want to remind the public that we have the little library at the Waterworks, and I am pursuing an idea of expanding Waterworks trails, and that's more to come with that information. But anyway, we've been very quiet. So.
I would also like to give words of appreciation for the fire department, for the mayor, for Tim Perfetti, and the way that the situation down at the BOCES building was handled. We had a small kitchen fire on Pearl Street about a week and a half ago. It was a pot of boiling eggs left on, and then the people left. Neighbor on York Street saw the smoke, called the fire department. They were there like that with every single truck the city owns. And it was put out very quickly. The owner did arrive and and was very grateful. It gave me an opportunity to, because everybody came out on Pearl Street, of course, to see the excitement. So I got to speak to everybody on my way back home, which was nice. Motorcycles speeding up and down Tompkins Street all hours of the night. That's getting to be more of an issue. And a constituent voiced the need for a traffic light at Tompkins and Pashley, which I think has been discussed historically. That is it for the fourth ward. Yeah, you're the third ward. I don't know.
We're fine, Mr. Thompson.
I'll take over Ward 5.
Okay.
4 things. Currently, there's the Gear Up of Learning at summer school for student drivers. But at the same time, at that intersection going downhill, High School Hill, there's quite a few folks that are speeding, somewhat not in control, almost crossing the double yellow lines, going down that hill that turns into kind of a curve there. So I'm not sure what we can do in that section, but I think something would be warranted based on the speed going down the hills and safety. In relationship to some of the, I did receive a couple of complaints, specifically Sunnyfield area around some loitering and a residence house company loitering in the section of that street that's owned by the city, and the police department was called, and so was DSS just for services, things like that. So, and they were responded to well, but these things are happening, and there have been some concerns from residents. Last thing is Randall Park. Did receive some information, feedback from residents around making sure that children's voices were in the feedback to consultants that are developing the park. And I just, as you said, I want to reassure residents of all the wards, Randall Park used by so many, that feedback was actually sought from students that from Randall School and from some of the other schools in the school district. So that, just want to make sure that's out there. And one last thing, actually, trees, residents are wondering how to potentially gain more access for trees in certain sections of the ward, specifically fruit trees. And I don't know if there's any ordinance or local laws against fruit trees being in our neighborhoods.
No.
But that was an interesting idea. A lot of European cities, I guess, have fruit trees that line the streets. So,
Nice idea.
Yeah.
so that's all. It's in the 5th ward.
If we get their names, make sure they get on the list for the tree committee, we can reach out to them. Because they're always looking for volunteers to put trees in their yards.
They could suggest fruit trees.
All right, we're gonna skip all the way to Ward 8. Mr. Michaels.
Just a few things to touch on. Motorcycles. Police chief does have a plan on dealing with these individuals. Just to give you a heads up. Some tree damage at Randall Park. Some teenagers took an axe to one of our park trees. We're in the works of trying to save this tree instead of cutting it down. We do have an arborist, just learned tonight, that is going to come and take a look at it. We also have another tree that was brought to my attention that the woman wanted to remove. We're gonna have an arborist look at that as well, just to see its condition, whether it's warranted or not. And DPW did cut down one tree in my ward that was kind of hanging off over the road. I want to thank them once again for that. One that was really needed. Still dealing with some lawns here and there. I'll get a hold of Code again this week and give them a new list. The one lawn property on Kellogg Road that I mentioned here, I think the last meeting or so. We cleaned all the trash and rubbish up around it. We had the lawn mowed. And now that property is up for sale. Well, there are some good things that come out of keeping in touch some of these properties and trying to do something with them. And a request for a snake permit. I should Seth that this what started in his ward, came back to exotic pet committee. I'll get a hold of our deputy clerk and Andy at some point this week and brief them on that. That'll be coming through probably this week. She already gave the individual the okay to have it, and she already took money from them for the rent. It's a small snake, from what I understand, but we still have to take a look at it.
Yeah, it's not an ask. Those are small, but deadly.
Also had another call, Randall Park, our bathroom, one of the bathroom faucets was left on due to a faulty faucet, and tried to get that repaired. So that water continued running. It just looked like seat damage. Derek Reynolds also met me over there that night. Derek was able to shut it off. I thank them for his assistance.
Yeah.
We got there about the same time. That's all I have for you. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Approval of minutes for June 14th meeting. Have a motion. So, explain. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions. Agenda item number 1, approve a special event and related permits for the Great Portland Pumpkin Fest.
Resolved that the common council does hereby approve a special event permit, a sound device permit without fee, an operating permit, and a street closure request for the Great Portland Pumpkin Fest to be held on October 1st and October 2nd, 2022.
Motion. Sullivan. Oh, yeah, sorry, Tom. Mr. Michaels is second. That's great to see this come back. We got an excited committee that's going through this, so we're hoping to tie in downtown with some of this during the construction aspect, so this will be a great thing. Roll call.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 2, approve special event and related permits for Dark Horse Tavern. Motion. Ms. Sullivan,
I'll second it.
Pinello.
Resolved that the common council does hereby approve a special event permit, a sound device permit, and a street closure request for the Dark Horse Tavern to be held from noon to 8 p.m. on July 15th, 2022.
Looks like they're blocking off the bottom part of the hill. Some music there. Get rid of that for downtown for sure. Questions? Okay.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Stay.
No, to be single, so. conflict with it, falling out of it?
It's, well, actually, it's not during school. Is this during the school year?
No.
No.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 3, authorize additional sidewalk funds for the city's 2022 sidewalk program.
Resolved that the city does hereby appropriate up to an additional $20,000 for the 2022 sidewalk program to address the need identified by its citizens for safer walkways in the city.
I get a motion first. And Ms. Mello, Ms. Lane second. Discussion questions. This is what we discussed last meeting.
Great. Very happy about this.
Roll call.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 4, authorize a mortgage subordination and agreement.
Resolved that the city of Portland subordinates for a second time its mortgage instrument number 2016-02801, recorded on June 8, 2016, with the Portland County Clerk. Said subordination to facilitate a home equity line of credit to CFCU in the maximum amount of $40,000 for said resident, and further authorizes Mayor Scott Steve to sign the subordination agreement for the same.
Got a motion. Ms. Stillman, Mr. Michaels. Questions?
Yes, I have a question. So is there, does anybody check to see that the money gets used for the improvements that it's supposed to be used for?
Yes. All right, I'll answer that.
Generally, that would be the responsibility of the bank, the ones that are going to be fighting funds. So we don't actually go out and do that. But the bank, they cut the checks. They'll be doing that.
Do they actually do it? Do you know?
I can't, I won't stake my life on it, but I would think they would. It would be good banking practice.
Yeah.
And a line of credit is a little bit different than a mortgage, because it, you know, you can purchase, pay back, and then you can have your line of credit available to you again, so you could use it on other things.
Yeah,
In this case, the city's gonna be totally out in a year, and at this point, there's $1,100 that's at risk, but there's no, from what we can see, there's no risk of individual leaving the property, which is when recapture would be triggered.
that's the biggest concern I have. And I like that this individual has already paid back like
I'm sorry, say it again?
I know that that's the biggest concern, that the person would leave and you can't recapture the money, as you say, so I'm glad that that's not a big risk. And I like that this individual has already paid back a lot of money, so that's promising. I was just curious about.
And she has a lot of people that we work with. When she repaid the loan, she thought she was done. They don't really understand the regulatory period has to pass. So when she went to the bank, she said, no, I don't have any debt on the property. And again, it wasn't until the bank looked at the title and they said, no, the city has a mortgage on this because there's a deferred regulatory period.
Thank you.
That's how a lot of these things are happening.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 5, authorize contract with Carter Street Service for the 2022 City of Portland tree and stump removal project.
Resolved that the common council does hereby authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Carter's Tree Service in the amount of $19,500 for the removal of trees, stumps, and debris to commence in the next 60 days.
I'll move it.
Thompson, second. No. Any questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 6, authorize Homer Ave infrastructure upgrades grant applications.
Resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for funds from the New York State Consolidated Funding Process for Homer Avenue infrastructure improvements, and upon approval of said request, to enter into and execute a grant agreement with the state for financial assistance to the city of Portland, and if appropriate, take actions necessary to implement the proposed grant project upon approval from the state.
I'll motion.
Second. Ms. Carroll, Ms. Thompson. Any questions? Again, this is to continue on that Homer Ave project down the street. Get that next 2 resolutions and to help address that. Roll call.
Councilmember Sittleman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 7, authorize submission of a Finance Smart grant for Homer Ave infrastructure upgrades.
Resolved that the common council authorizes the submission of a grant request in the amount of $2 million and a local match of $2 million. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for funds from the New York State Climate Smart Grant for $4 million total project cost. And upon approval of said request, to enter into and execute a grant agreement with the state for financial assistance to the city of Portland. And if appropriate, take actions necessary to implement the proposed grant project upon approval from the state.
Ms. Sullivan,
I'll second.
Ms. Pinello. Again, this is help from that. Roll call.
Councilmember Sittleman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 8, certified resolution for local government efficiency grant.
Resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to submit as a co-applicant with Portland County for funds, and upon approval of said request, to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Portland County, and if appropriate, take actions necessary to implement the proposed grant project upon approval from the state.
Motion. Ms. Sullivan, Ms. Lane. So this is something started 18 years ago when I was in the county to try to get leachate line. Because right now the wastewater gets from the landfill gets put into tanks and it's tractor trailer down. So this will save county taxpayers roughly $280,000 a year just in the trucking cost of the truck, let alone the environmental impact that has. So this is something we're excited about doing, that we'll be able to get something worked out with the Village of McGraw as the sign of the town. Portlandville, the county, and the city will work together towards doing this. The county's taking the lead on it, so it really should be impacting us cost financially. But then that gives us the option of getting the leachate delivered in trickles instead of big slugs, which will be helpful for the wastewater to be able to manage that. Questions?
Councilmember Sittleman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 9, appoint members to City Environmental Advisory Committee.
Resolved that Stephen Broyles is hereby appointed by the Common Council as a member of the City of Portland Environmental Advisory Committee.
Ms. Sullivan,
Need a second.
Ms. Pinello. Any questions?
I think this is a great appointment. It's very appropriate.
Yes. Yeah, it'd be great. We're going to start their meetings July 11th, I think it is, right? So that's good. There's some good ideas and good stuff going on. Ms. Lane and I were able to visit the House, the Food Coalition.
Seven Valley.
Seven Valley Coalition today, the tour, and that's going to be great. It's going to be great to have that. So, all good assets for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Sittleman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 10, approve local law number 5, 2022 to create a nuisance animal and pest removal assistance program.
Resolved that the appropriated funds shall be transferred to the City of Portland Code Enforcement Offices contractor budget line A 3620-541505, and be it further resolved that the Common Council hereby adopts local law number 5 of 2022, titled Amendment of Chapter 74, creating nuisance animal assistance removal guidelines and removal assistance program, and be it further resolved that the text of the local law shall read as follows, and I'll waive the reading of the full local law.
Can I get a motion? Ms. Sillman,
A second.
Mr. Nell. So to address this Meeker's, some of her concerns, probably agree that more money would be needed for sure and anticipated. And long-term solution is even more important. This is something we haven't ever had on the books before. This is putting the law, enacting the law and getting it started. And a short-term solution to, we're behind the game. So they've already had their
Second litter.
second letter. I was trying to come up with a way
They
to
have,
say
yeah,
that. Thank
they
you for
have
that.
two, they have two.
Right, so they've already had their second litter, so we're way behind. So ultimately, you're right, because if the incentive's on the neighbor to have, or your neighbor to have to eradicate for your problem, they might not do it. They might not have the funds, and those will come over from somebody else's one, so eradicating it there. So I agree in the concept that it is a citywide problem overall. So again, this is a short-term solution to trying to address a short-term need and identify, hopefully that this will get us identified how bad this problem really is. And if we get next year, we would put up, by the end of this year, we put out a bid to determine what it would cost us to do an eradication, so we can actually address the overall concerns. This will give us an idea where the problems are for them to understand it, and then we address it overall. Yes, so we address that as a global concern in the end. So we don't, so, and I have some people that I promised that I would reimburse them. They would get reimbursed. So this is to get the local law done, to get that adopted. That's number one. Where it talks about the $200, it says, if you recognize it, it says a minimum or a maximum of that. So if it goes away, that doesn't matter. We still have the nuisance law that we're addressing. And that's the intent of this local law, is to address that. So our next resolution to vote on that contract is a short-term solution. But by the end of this year, we should have a better idea of what that's going to take. And maybe ballpark, maybe it's $10,000 and we get it eradicated across the city for them to address the entire problem. And it'd be a little bit easier than responding to other people's problems and not having them fix the problem. But this way we can address it at the same time.
And they are all over the city.
Yes,
The
for sure.
railroad tracks are,
Yeah.
they like the railroad.
When I was up mowing up at the cemetery,
Oh, yeah.
they have a colony up there for sure.
And,
It's condos.
and going to the recycling center, they have family outings.
I was at a meeting at wastewater the other day. One decided to join us outside the window. So I just appreciate it, appreciate it. So we see them all, they're all over, and we need to address that problem as well. So and getting them not only out of there and finding out where they're living, we can have more people willing to let us go on their property. Right. We first need to establish the law. This is a short-term solution to address it. Right.
Something the mayor didn't address was the fact that we only deal with one contractor that's licensed for this type of removal. And next year, we'd like to get some more involved so that we're not stuck on a certain price to make this more competitive.
Nobody's happy about that price either, so we'll address that.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Any call the motion?
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 11, authorize nuisance animal removal and harborage abatement services contract.
Resolved that the city designates Sweeney's Pest Elimination LLC as the contractor under local law number 5 of 2022. And be it further resolved that the city authorizes the mayor to enter into a one-year contract with Sweeney's Pest Removal Services LLC to perform the nuisance animal removal and harborage abatement services associated with the nuisance animal removal assistance program.
Ms. Selman, that's a motion. Okay, and a second. Ms. Lane, any questions?
I would just like to add, I'm sorry that she just left. You can only do this once per year per property, and it's good for 2 animals, but you would be paying 100 per animal. So there's that, and I have to say that when this came up before the previous council, we voted for a nuisance, helping nuisance animals. I was against it because we do seem to be overrun. One of my neighbors, her dog killed 26 one summer, 26 groundhog. So that, what are you gonna do?
Sign the dog up.
Yeah, seriously. Maybe that's a better solution. Well, now dogs, because my dog used to take care of the cemetery. Really, when we would go for walks, so yeah, let her off the leash if nobody was around, and she'd go for them.
Their claws are gigantic. I would be afraid the dog would get.
It has to be a pretty good sized dog.
Yeah.
It's like my neighbor's dog. Used to spam wood chucks. That dog would sit by that hole all day long. until it pops his head out. Big
And then
old-
rat.
What I didn't like about it is he never dragged it in his money.
Oh,
Anybody else? All right, call the vote.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 12, fire apparatus purchase.
Resolved that the City of Portland Common Council authorizes the mayor to execute a contract with Premier Fire Apparatus Incorporated, representing E1 Manufacturing, for the purchase of one E1 Custom Typhoon stainless steel fire pumper apparatus with a 1500 GPM pump and a 1030 gallon tank, equipped with a 450 horsepower Cummins motor, for the base price of $599,000, with required modifications included to be $50,000, for a total of $649,000. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute a municipal equipment bond to cover the above costs.
Ms. Lane. Stillman. Yeah, so this is a big purchase that's not budgeted for, and intent would be to execute a bond, which you'll be getting a bond. Get all the specifics to that. This came up kind of quickly. The opportunity became aware of what that is, and we can, the savings $188,000, that's the resolution, which is tough. And if we did order one right now, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, it's over a year, correct? 18 months, yeah. So that's an important factor too. So I think you've given all the supporting documentation to show why this is needed and where we needed to go on short term and long term. The bond resolution, this will get us by to get him to purchase the truck, and then the bond resolution will put together, so we'll put some other equipment that we need at DPW and some of the wastewater and some truck and some other equipment at the same time. So we're putting together those bids and we'll get that back to everybody after that.
And this demo truck, I went in, you probably went over to see it. Yeah, nice truck. And it will be taking the place of a truck that is 25 years old. So, I mean, it's definitely needed, and I'm pleased that we're gonna be able to get it.
Yeah, that's a great situation. Always commend the fire department for keeping their trucks clean, but sometimes it doesn't show the age of it.
Right.
So sometimes I think the other departments may do not do that. Anybody else have any other questions?
Does fit in the garage, but
Yes, yeah, it won't sink through to the basement.
They literally drove it in to make sure.
Yeah. they do.
Anybody else? Call the motion, please.
Councilmember Sullivan,
aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
I
investment.
Yes. 25 years.
Yeah, it is. Agenda item number 13, surplus of fire department equipment.
Resolved that the city of Cortland Common Council authorizes the following equipment currently in possession and used by the fire department to be designated as surplus, and authorizes the fire chief to advertise said equipment in appropriate manner as surplus and available for sale. And be it further resolved that the city of Portland Common Council authorizes any revenue generated from the sale of this surplus equipment to be transferred into the fire department line number A 3410-5407770, equipment repair for future use by the department.
So,
I'll second.
Ms. Pennell? Questions on this? We'll call.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 14, authorized letter in support of YWCA Historic Building Renovation Grant application.
Resolved that the mayor is authorized to write a letter in support of the YWCA Cortland's grant application to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation and other potential funding sources.
Ms. Lang? Mr. Thompson? Yeah, this is, they had contacted, the YWCA had contacted to support their effort to renovate their building. You know, bunch of needs. At some point, they'll make a presentation. But this is worthwhile for our historic buildings to maintain as we can. And so, more importantly, support our YWCA.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 15, proposal to explore City of Cortland revolving loan fund, sewer storm lateral repair, water service repair, and sidewalk replacement program.
Resolved that the city shall hold a public hearing at the next scheduled common council meeting or as soon thereafter to discuss the details of the local law that will provide local residents with the benefit of a revolving loan fund, the creation of which is necessary to allow for such a program to be facilitated through property tax collection.
I'll motion.
Someone second. This is an idea that I got from other mayors and other cities have done to offer a 5-year spread out like we discussed to do it. So the people who can't afford to do their sidewalks or can't do that could spread that over that period of time. Or the sewer lateral unexpectedly breaks. Or more importantly, when we're doing our downtown projects, and we have to do new storm mains and sewer laterals, rather than have to go back and tear up the sidewalk a year later, or when we're doing any of the other Homer Atlas saying we can give the owners an option to be able to do something at a low interest loan to be able to do that. So that's the idea behind this. So that's where we're together.
Can I ask, how did you come up with the 6%?
I just, that's what the other municipalities seem to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's negotiable. I've thought about it long and hard about not having anything at all, but our dollar, it's, you know, it's,
I don't think we're allowed to,
not do it. So
Yeah,
it'd
we
be
have
nice
to do
not to have,
something.
right, we have to do something that's fair and
but we
marketable.
could discuss making it even lower, right?
Yeah, we could look into that. Legally, though, we have to, if we're gonna offer something to someone, we have to offer it to them. It's kind of fair market rate, kind of situation. But yes, that was the idea. I just want to put something out there. If they have any ideas, to look at changing that, or look at that now. So we do the public hearing, we can change that. Anything else?
And I think it's just such a wonderful show of support for the residents here in the city that, you know, we're trying to help them. And at the same time, making sure that our city is functioning and looking good and moving forward. So I think it's great.
This gives us another tool when we go after people to fix their sidewalks in our disrepair, for example. We have a little bit of leverage to say, all right, well, you can't, but here's an option. It's a really reasonable option for them to, it's not a significant amount of money. We put out an RFP, that we part of the deal, we put an RFP out for how many linear, what it costs per linear foot to do a sewer line, for example, or a water line, or a backflow device, or the sidewalk, how much per panel on the sidewalk, and then they would pay that rate. And it would all be signed and done, and this gets assessed to the taxes and spread out. the way. So there's a better investment than we pick away with this $10,000 on our sidewalks, which is all great. But in the end, this will make, hopefully move more of them past that faster. That would be the idea.
Yep.
Anybody else? All the motion?
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 16, appropriate annual Cortland City Police bike sale proceeds.
Resolved that the common council does hereby affirm the funds from the above noted bicycle sale to be divided equally between the Waterworks Deer Fund for the purchase of winter hay and the Portland Youth Bureau for the purchase of ice cream, which shall be handed out to citizens throughout the parks over the summer as part of a joint Portland City Police Department and Portland City Youth Bureau community engagement effort.
Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Mr. Mello, Mr. Thompson. Yeah, this is great. Chief did a great job again. Yeah, and this would be great to join the Youth Bureau and get recognition that give ice cream.
Right.
We've already scheduled our first event,
What is that date, Chief?
15th location, Second Park,
So the 15th at Suggit Park.
12, 15, 12:30.
So,
It coincides with
free
the free lunch program.
oh, good, thank you for that. Roll call.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 17, authorized credit card accounts for use by the Youth Bureau.
Resolved that the common council does hereby grant authority to the Portland Youth Bureau to establish a credit card account with Tompkins Trust Company to conduct department business when circumstances necessitate in compliance with the city's credit card policy.
Motion. Ms. Lane. Mr. Michaels. This is, they currently have a credit card and it's through Omaha. I'm not sure why it ended up there or came from there. They charge a fee. It's not really necessarily a benefit to us. Some other issues that we had with this credit card company. So this is just to put them all on the same, as all the other credit cards that you're seeing reports for. So this is done in the same place. So that's the intent of that. So they already have one, but anything new, we're just making sure the resolution is on that. This will be amendment.
Will we get rid of the old one?
Yes. Yeah, as soon as this one gets, as soon as this resolution, then it'll be activated.
Okay.
We can't do it without this one. Anybody else?
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda number 18, accept and recognize donations to the Portland Youth Bureau.
Resolved that the common council accepts the donations listed below and appropriates funds to the Portland Youth Bureau operating budget accounts outlined below. Donation from the Portland Elks Club in the amount of $450 for a field trip to Enchanted Forest.
Any motion? Ms. Stillman, Mr. Michaels. Yeah, this is awesome that they do that. It's such a great trip for them. It's great that they're donations. So thanks to the Elks Club, who does a lot for our community for sure. Roll call.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Discussion items. Discussion item number 1, Director of Administration and Finance.
So I'll start. The Executive Personnel Committee met a couple of weeks ago and we reviewed a draft of a job description for the Director of Administration and Finance. And just to dot our i's and cross our t's, We're just submitting it to NICOM for their review, just in case they want to add something to it. And then we should be ready to, the July Executive Personnel Committee meeting, finalize it and go from there. Any questions?
Discussion item number 2.
I'm sorry, when can we see it?
Well, that's what, when we meet in July, and then any additional editing that NICOM might provide, then we'll finalize it and bring it to the council.
That'll be a public document.
Probably be August.
Yeah, because our meeting is the fourth Thursday, so.
Parker School ad hoc.
Well, there's not a lot to report. We have not met since the last time. Troy works with an engineer who is going to be reviewing the report from the engineer that the YW had complete. The YW had an engineering firm complete a report about what it would take to rehab the building for their Encapco's purposes. So that was done years ago, pre-COVID. Now COVID's hit, costs have gone up. Troy knows an engineer who's going to review that document ad hoc and update all of the costs. And Troy just picked up that document, I guess, on Thursday. And so once he returns it to the YW, then they will meet with Capco and talk about what they're realistically able to do. So that'll be revealing, and then we'll have a meeting again. The YW's internet was down for quite a while, and they were trying to send this electronically, and it just wasn't working, so they had to do it the old fashioned.
And Katie, the YW, they had an architect pro bono. It wasn't an
Oh, they
engineer, it was
didn't
an
have-
architect pro bono.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep, so that's where we see.
Thank you. Trash and recycling ad hoc advisory committee is meeting again tomorrow, right? So at 6 o'clock tomorrow to review the documents, the survey, which everybody got a copy of those.
Yeah.
80%.
That was very revealing.
It was, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone was surprising some of it, so back on track with that. I think Al's gonna be there right now.
Yes.
Okay. I think Mr. Dillon's on vacation, so we'll go back through that, and try to take the next necessary steps for that. Town gown ad hoc planning committee. Ms. Lane, do you want to address this one?
Sure.
There.
The mayor and I met on June 21st with John Suarez and Sandra Walber, and talked about just how the city and the college can work together. And the mayor had some wonderful ideas about and different housing, parking, community connection, inviting and having an inviting Portland experience. It would be too late this year to get together and have anything downtown. They said they're pretty set, right, for the
I'm
fall.
not giving up on that.
Okay, all right, you keep fighting that
I'm
fight.
stubborn.
Keep fighting that fight. So that was a very good meeting. We have another meeting on July 19th with John and Sandra. And then later on that afternoon, we met with President Bitterbaum and continued the discussions. And that you can speak to the financial.
Yeah, we discussed, there was a couple things we discussed financially. We discussed the science center at the Waterworks, which is part of the whole
Right.
Waterworks plan. So that was, he was very excited about that. He was very excited about some of the things. Some of the other things we talked about was with the financial strain that's done, has put on our fire department and police department, different ways of being able to recoup some of that money, to be able to try to do that. So we're discussing a couple things there and waiting for him to set up a meeting again to follow through. And we also went through the whole list with him Yeah, just endorsement and support on some of those ideas as well. So I think it went very well. I think it's a good start. Certainly we'll want to continue on with pushing through that because there's a lot of good, there are a lot of good things happening, but I think it was a- that's great.
And they will be, I guess all students will be able to vote at the Park Center, which I didn't realize they couldn't already. They're having a campus challenge of voter registration. As students come in, they're going to be pushing voter registration very strong.
Yeah, it's part of the new reform. They're all voted at the college now.
Right.
Also, these
All,
schools
Right.
have
are they?
2 to 3 voter registration days throughout the year.
Right. So they're really pushing for it, which
They
is
are.
great to get them involved in the community so they understand it. That's the purpose of the town council, they can get downtown or in our community and see what the great parts that we have. nowadays. All right, agenda item number 5 is actually several things. I want to ask AJ to update us on several lawsuits we have. We'll try to discuss that, so AJ can come up. Sure. Talk.
So the one that's listed on the agenda relative to Conifer Park is a pretty substantial rental property complex up near the high school. And ultimately, a suit was brought challenging the validity of their tax assessment because it's low income housing. So they have an agreement with the municipality, with the state that says when you go through the assessment process, you have to follow a certain methodology based on their income. So they can qualify for these lower initial rents. So people who would be approved for low income housing can live there ultimately. They challenged this. They challenged their assessment. Ultimately, the judge decided, for what it's worth, I inherited this, that there was no documented methodology. They didn't say there was an indication that the city required the financial documentation from the property owner to say that this is what your assessment is based on. Your income from these from the rent from these lower income residents, but couldn't provide proof as to how they arrived at that number or any financial documentation, which is very important when it comes to those particular types of residential rental properties. Because we require that they offer those things in those lower rents, or the state does, to facilitate homes for some individuals who can't afford them. Ultimately, the Supreme Court said that there was no methodology used because you couldn't provide one. Settle this suit. Here's a range of assessments. Here's an assessment range that you can lock yourself into. It wasn't just the city. The school district was involved as well as the county. We've been in pretty substantial settlement negotiation for the past couple of months, and I think that we've arrived at a number, but ultimately it will lock us in for the next 3 years, which is a good thing. We're going to get someone back on our tax rolls either way, and then we can go through that methodology when that time comes to ensure that that property is assessed at the right value. But any time that there's litigation challenging assessment, whether the judge says this is what the assessment is going to be, or there's a settlement as to that assessment number, statutorily you're locked in for 3 years. But that's where we're at right now. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because it will affect obviously taxes and just a handful of things that.
And once we finalize this negotiation, we'll have this document presented as a resolution for our next meeting.
Correct.
So everybody understands.
And then that'll get us back on the right path and follow that methodology forward, and people can continue to receive low-income housing. It's a substantial property there. I'm not sure how many units, but it provides a lot of roofs overhead. So we want to make sure that those property owners continue to offer that service here. Jack up their assessment too much.
Have they been currently paying their taxes?
Yep. So they well up until this suit. So we want to make sure that start this tax checks.
2 years.
But ultimately, there's just a process, and we want to make sure that we follow that. So tenants can have that benefit, and then we have the benefit of that tax income. Property tax. Second suit I think that we should bring up relates to zoning regulations. A couple different suits, but the one I'm going to talk about tonight was commenced in 2019. Essentially challenged the validity of two specific zoning regulations, ultimately saying that they weren't uniform in application. Those two things are requiring special use permits for non-owner occupied single family buildings in R1 districts, and versus owner occupied single family dwellings in R1 districts. And the second one is minimum parking for non-owner occupied single family dwellings in R1 districts. Ultimately, every municipality, well, every city is governed by a particular statute that outlines the uniformity requirement. It's General City Law 2024. What it says is that in a specific district, you have to treat every class of building the same way. So in this particular instance, we're talking about single family buildings, right? And what the court is saying is that it's discriminatory to treat non-owner occupied single family dwellings different than owner occupied single family dwellings solely based on the status of the property. I mean, the statute is pretty black and white. You can have the same regulation for every single class of building, but you can't have different regulations or different thresholds based on the status of a property owner. So what the court, I mean, frankly, it's a slippery slope. You know, if we're going to use property owner as the basis to say you need a special use permit because you don't live there, or you need a special use permit because you need to have enough parking for 3 cars in your driveway because you don't live there. But on the flip side of it, if you do live there, it's a use by right. So you don't need minimum parking if it's owner occupied. You don't need a special use permit, obviously, if it's owner occupied, whether you're renting to individuals or not. What the court said, that there's no dispute as to what our zoning regulations are. These are the applicable regulations. This is how they're enforced. So we can't argue that there's a factual discrepancy between what we're saying and what plaintiff is saying, that they're invalid based on that violation of uniformity, those particular provisions. And ultimately, I think that it's worth setting up a committee to explore models that might work. And we've already started to look at models in other communities that are university-based or whatever, just similar cities to see what they've done, such as square footage, things like that. But you can't, what New York State says is you can put the same regulation on one class of building, but you can't treat that same class of building differently or break them off because of the status of the owner. And that's where we're at with that. So we got to explore revising those two particular provisions. One requiring a special use permit for non-owner occupied single family residences in R1 districts, and the same prohibition, that requirement that non-owner occupied single family dwellings have to have minimum parking. It's all got to be the same based on class of building, not based on status of owner. So like I said, it's a slippery slope. We don't want to open the door.
So in tune to that, what you mentioned was about putting a committee, like a rental registry committee together, is what I discussed as a solution. And ironically, today, from the next case that we'll discuss here in a minute, from another case that we had carried over, it would fit under that as well. So I think we can get, if we can get that to stay until we get this committee to come up with a solution on the best way to address it, so we can address these inadequacies or proper doings, if you will, that we can get this addressed and get these things moved so they can come up with a solution that's going to work with all. So I'd like to put together the rental registration to discuss that. And the judge in the other case actually recommended that.
He did, yeah.
Ironically.
And this has been after extensive litigation and discovery. This wasn't a quick decision by the judge. He's got all his ducks in a row. It's been pending for over 3 years. The question really becomes, is the law on the books treating the same property in the same district differently because of the owner's status? Is that the law? I guess. So, and I think that, as the mayor said, I wouldn't call it a sister case, but there's another lawsuit pending that's been pending for some time that kind of deals with those same uniformity issues. So I'm hoping that this committee could address all those things in one fell swoop. Obviously, rental permits will still be required, things like that. You know, we're talking about these 2 specific statutes and how we can come up with a mechanism to regulate each different residential district constitutionally. And so this one, they're both, again, this particular case is, the next one is also relevant to R1 districts, I think. I don't have that one in front of me, but challenging the selective enforcement. That's basically what we're talking about. You're not treating me the same as you're treating the next guy because of my status as you got it. So.
Yes, we need to address, my opinion is, and certainly that's one of the job descriptions of the corporate counsel, is to resolve any conflicts instead of making it go away. We spent a lot of money over the past few years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars defending and fighting this, and I think we need to look at going the other way and maybe trying to address it. So the idea is to put, I'd like to do is just to get understand, I'd like to put 3 council persons on to look at this as well, and then get some citizen advisory, some rental, student renter people, some regular rental people, and some single family homeowners as well, try to represent that. So I would, if everybody can give me names, that would be great. You can shoot me an email or let me know. Either way, we'll let Robin know, we'll get those names or people you have interested, you think would be a good level head to be able to bring to this, to be able to discuss it. I think some of the litigants might not be a bad situation for us to bring in to discuss as well. Some of these things that have been in the lawsuit case against us, so to speak, trying to resolve it and do the best we can for what's best for everybody.
I would like to be on that committee.
So
This is really an opportunity, I think, for us to go through those requirements, zoning, rental, make sure that they're all working together, because right now that's not the case. Some of our co-provisions.
That's been a frustration.
that, and ultimately, like we've always talked about, it's quality of life. What are the solutions that we have that are affecting those quality of life instead of what about this? Like, a lot of the codes are already there. Anybody else have any other suggestions, or you can come up with something, email it to me if you don't mind.
Sure.
You guys come up with it. So, but I'd like to get this established pretty quick.
We've got a lot of good starting points. You know, I've looked at different ways to go about this based on the judge's decision, and at least provide a basis for the committee, whoever might be on it, to see what can work for the city of Portland. So we don't find ourselves in this boat. Right.
AJ will be on there as well, so we'll make sure that that's moving forward. And then there was another one, but I think I'm gonna hold off till we have the full council here for that. That one, we're gonna have to go in executive session for,
Okay.
to call it personnel, but, hold on. That was.
Yeah, that's it.
That was
We
it.
solved the handful already.
All right.
The other one,
The other ones we've made go away.
the other one involves personnel issues, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be executive session.
Yeah, I'd rather wait till we have the full board for that discussion, so they don't, they already decided. So what we can hold on that, we got some time. All right, anything else? Anybody else have any questions?
Mention that Supreme Court judge.
Yep.
Okay.
Both of them.
Yep, so there's one that was pending here in Portland County and it might not always be the judge that you think it would be, and the other one's pending in Madison County, but it's the same judicial district. Okay, the judge you catch.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a discussion that I'd like to throw out to the council. So Personnel Committee, the Executive Personnel Committee, meets and discusses a wide variety of issues. And something that has come up, which I would like to just bring up to the council, is that our deputy clerk, Mr. Jewett, is part-time. And his salary is what I would term an insult to him and to his skills and to his professional experience. So doing some research, and Tom helped, he's on the personnel committee too, looking at cities comparable to our size in upstate New York, a part-time deputy clerk, it ranges from 21,000 to 27,000 a year. Okay, range. Now, granted, his salary, we're going into the 7th month, we're in the 7th month, so we're halfway through the year. And we can discuss for next year's budget another increase, but I would, he only makes $5,000. It's an insult. So I would like to propose that the council looks to increase his salary to an appropriate amount comparable to, again, cities of Portland size in upstate New York in that 21,000 range because he deserves it. He deserves it. It's an insult. And so that's what I would like to propose to the council. And obviously, we can just, vote on it tonight, or we can wait till the next council meeting. That's your decision.
I think we'd have to put it together.
Yeah, resolution.
Yeah.
Get some kind of tacit number, so everybody's kind of getting that.
And it would be nice if the full council got to
Right,
get that
right.
proposal.
Because it's an insult. Absolute insult.
So, yeah, put together a resolution for the next meeting then.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. All right. Anybody else? We'll recognize a resolution for the next meeting. Okay, let's set the motion for adjournment. There's someone? That's me. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Four people.
All has been a mistake.